Welcome back, everybody, to the Bucket Bros. The NBA season is here. Tip-off is tomorrow night, and we are ready. Oh, Bobby,
So
can you
pumped.
feel
So
it? Can you
pumped.
feel it? Can you feel it? Oh, it is NBA time, and
I'm jazzed.
we are ready to go get some roll our ankles a little bit, get some knee scrapes and knee burns on that hardwood. Yeah, it is time. Slap that 4. Let's go.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait. This is probably my favorite holiday of the year, every year. And yeah, tune into you guys got to certainly tune into the openers tomorrow. Going to be a couple good ones. We'll talk about it a little bit more, but Knicks at Celtics for the early game and Timberwolves Lakers for the late game out west. I'm canceling all my appointments for this one. I am going to figure out how to get a cable subscription in order to tune in live. Yeah, my week is pretty much set for me. So
No, I'm looking at getting NBA TV. We'll see if that is gonna end up on the docket. Otherwise, I got to roll with my ESPN Plus and watch as many games as I can. So, but yeah, let's get into it. This is the Bucket Bros. Let's go. This is fast break news. Let's get into some of the action of the NBA. It is the opening week of NBA games. They start the 22nd, so Tuesday, October 22nd. It's Tuesday. We're filming this Monday night. So this is the eve of the basketball season. How excited are you, Bobby, for this?
The same thing happens to me every year. I'm at like a 2 out of 10 for the moments leading up to the season, and then all of a sudden I realize we're about to watch basketball that actually matters, and it ramps up to a 12 within seconds. I also never actually can remember when opening day actually is. So it always sneaks up on me. I think I was like brainstorming multiple preseason episodes that we can do, and yeah, unless we stay up all night, that's just absolutely not going to happen at this point.
I don't think that's going to happen. So one of the big headlines that came about over the last week and a half was the Kawhi Leonard injury. His right knee. This is one of those things. I hope he had insurance on it when he signed that original Clippers contract, because my goodness, how much time has that knee and load management becoming a catchphrase because of that knee? What's going on with that thing?
I mean, they're just calling it inflammation. It's kind of bizarre to me how this is something that just becomes recurrent, keeps flaring up. You feel like by now, with how he keeps dealing with this injury year after year, he would have explored a treatment option that's a little bit more definitive for him or long lasting. I certainly don't want to use space to question Kawhi's toughness and willingness to play through injuries, yeah, I mean, he looks like a bruiser, but eventually, you got to get on the court. He's one of those players that every time he's playing for the Clippers, everybody's saying he's playing like an MVP, especially in the playoffs. The guy just seems like an absolute constant, unstoppable force. And here we go again. Next phase of the Kawhi saga. No surprises here. I don't know if some of this is preceding possible trade talks. I guess I'd have to look up to see when Kawhi's contract would actually be trade eligible. I'm assuming it is at this point, but maybe this is one of those. Maybe this is one of those injuries to help him miss time in light of a potential trade. But I just don't see the Clippers heading that way this year unless they really have something up their sleeve.
Yeah, they're saying he's out indefinitely, so we don't know the extent of that. That's a decent take. Devontae Adams just did a similar thing with his hamstring to get out of Las Vegas and be shipped across the country. So I'd be very surprised. Granted, he did a similar. It just feels very San Antonio-esque. Granted,
with
it's
the
not
quad.
so much directed at the team, but like just the instances of like, is this something real? Like, what's going on? To me, there's just so many questions. It's once he's on the court, he's an amazing two-way player, but you got to be on the court. Like, it's funny, we'll talk more about it later, but I think Jimmy Butler mentioned it's like in starting five, it's like you got to be on the floor. Like, you have to be there, and the extent of the stuff that they go through for their body that we don't see is ridiculous. And so I know that I'm sure if there's some people thinking, oh, he's just playing video games, sitting on his couch. I'm sure he's been rehabbing like crazy to try to get back on the court. And it's just, for whatever reason, something's just not working. So I feel for him that his body is failing. As somebody who's getting older, I can totally sympathize with that. Having torn two Achilles, I know how hard it is to kind of come back from some things, but you're a multi-million-dollar athlete still in your 30s. So it's disappointing, obviously, to say the least. And that Clippers team is kind of, I don't even know who's left over there. Honestly, it's kind of a no man's land, essentially. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that. I'm curious to see if he does get back, especially since all of this kind of, our podcast all started from that injury of him being pulled off of the Olympic team for Derek White. And so kind of going from there, that kind of spurred conversation. And that was a few months ago, and it's still not healthy and healed. So that's it's disappointing, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you certainly got to give him credit because he was trying to play in the Olympics. So that tells me that he wants to be on the court. And you know what makes this even more interesting for the Clippers is, you know, they're still dealing with the wake of the Paul George trade. So this year OKC has an unprotected pick swap with the Clippers. The Clippers, who are already coming into the season looking like an end of the line play-in type team, you know, they are doing. They want nothing to do with the lottery because you know, assuming that OKC lives up to their expectations this year, you know, that pick could easily drop higher and higher and higher. So, you know, you see those memes out there about OKC landing Cooper Flag this year in the draft because the Clippers, you know, just have an unfortunate season. So, I mean, certainly, I hope, you know, wish the best for them, but yeah, wow, just another heartbreaker in Clipperland.
Indeed. One of the ones that you have listed here that I think you were getting into that I don't have much information on is Isaiah Hartenstein and his fractured finger. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily the finger or the hand, but it looks like he sustained a non-displaced fracture in his left hand, which is his shooting hand. So that's going to put him out, or at least to be reevaluated in 5 to 6 weeks, which is not an unusual timeline. You break a bone. I mean, every time you break a bone, you're going to hear 4 to 6 weeks. So generally speaking, you would expect a guy to have an uncomplicated return from this. I guess, you know, one thing that stinks is I'm sure there's going to be a ramp up period for him just because he's going to be a little rusty on the shooting hand there. But, you know, I would say that as much as this injury is a little bit concerning for OKC's start, or just, you know, Isaiah Hartenstein in general and them trying to build chemistry, I would say if there's a team that could be out their starting center for the first couple months and be okay with it, it would definitely be a team like OKC. So it's certainly not the worst news in the world. It's not as daunting as the one that we just touched upon. But yeah, hopefully happy healing for him as well. Because boy, we are all itching to see Hartenstein gel in that lineup.
Yep. And one of the, sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once. So the next item that we had on the list was Danny Green retirement. Let me try that one again. Danny Green retiring, being kind of I want to say a bit of a nomad towards the end of his career, kind of hunting that ring, but was always a quality shooter, good defensive player, a unique role player, I would say, across many different good teams, playing with the Spurs for so many years. Had a stint with the Lakers, the 76ers, Cleveland. So definitely made the rounds as far as that goes. I've got him down here for trying to do quick math. 16 seasons, 16, 17 seasons, 15 says there. Can't do math. But yeah, just one of those guys. I think we all kind of saw him as a role player with the Spurs, kind of coming off the bench and giving quality minutes and being in, I don't know how many late season games and playoff games, and just a name that you just saw and just kind of got used to being in the playoffs. And we're usually always surprised when he wasn't. So, but yeah, Danny Green retiring out of UNC. What are your thoughts or memories of Danny Green, Daniel Richard Green Jr.?
Long, lustrous career. Certainly was able to transform well. He's like jump out of the gym, athlete type guy. Dunk contest participant champion. Oh boy, I'd have to look back to remind myself.
I'm going through his stuff here. I'll let you know if I see something pop up here.
But yeah, sort of transformed into an ideal NBA role as a 3-and-D wing guy, and yeah, that's just kind of where he made his name, where he made his bread. I feel like with this news, we can launch into a quick little trivia. It's an easy one, maybe, but yeah, Danny Green, definitely one of those guys that if he's playing for the team that you like, you love him. If he's playing for the other team, he pops up in highlights that just absolutely drive you nuts, whether it's shutting down your favorite guy or just being open for that corner three yet again and just putting the dagger through your heart. So yeah, certainly liked watching him, whether I was rooting for him, against him, mixed emotions, but that's all good. That's all a win, whether you love him or hate him. So hopefully he sails off into the sunset. But yeah, the one thing I wanted to mention on Danny Green is we sort of are being very light on the fact that he is a 3-time NBA champion.
I was just about to mention that. Sorry.
With 3 different teams. You mentioned you think of him as a Spur, and it's hard for me not to think of his more of the latter part of his career with the Raptors and the Lakers, where he won his other 2 rings. Short stints all around. I mean, he played with the Sixers for a little bit too, trying to fill those same shoes. Didn't work out as much in Philly, but that was for obviously different reasons. But with that, I mean, that's kind of a unique statistic. Players to win 3 or more championships. I'm sorry, championships with 3 or more teams in their career. There are 4 of them. We've named 1. Can you name the other 3?
Well, LeBron's easy.
Yeah.
Robert Horry?
I mean, that one stands out the most because he won 5 rings with 3 different teams. So okay. He was like the ultimate. He was the ultimate 6-man. This one is kind of. I
feel like it's a vague, like another 6th or 7th man off the bench.
Yeah, he very much resembles Robert Horry, and their careers overlapped a little bit. He started his career a little bit before Robert Horry. I should say resembles him in sort of the vagabond 6-man,
not Will Smith manner.
Yeah, exactly.
Shoot.
You're gonna hate it when I say this name.
I'm sure. In my head, I'm just gonna guess one name because it's the only one in my head is Kevin Willis.
It's do you want any other guesses or no?
No, I don't have anybody other names in my head.
John Sally with the Pistons, Bulls, and Lakers.
Oh man, and Bad Boys. Can't forget him.
I should have just said Bad Boys. I think you would have gotten it.
Yeah, I would have, honestly. Shoot. That's all right. I'll get you with some trivia later on. I'm going to hit you with a whole bunch.
It's gonna be very bad, I'm sure.
So our final story for Fast Break News was I found this. It was on social media for a couple of days. It's kind of a brewing story. I'm kind of curious to know what your thoughts are from the Knicks Timberwolves trade of Dante DiVincenzo chirping at the Knicks bench and Russell Brunson, the assistant coach for the Knicks, and then had some choice comments for Tibbs if one of the reporters asked him if he could hit a jumper over one of the current Knicks. He says it doesn't matter who, as long as it's in front of Tibbs. And so now there's this little bitterness of like what was going on with behind the scenes of why he's kind of lashing out right now. And there was a lot of people who were saying, oh, this is the kind of player Minnesota you're getting, this kind of disgruntled player. But I think what's going to happen is this guy's on a revenge tour. I think he's going to want to light the league on fire. And we just happen to be the team that he's with for the moment, because who knows what if he jettisons off. I don't remember how long we actually have him under contract. So we will see what happens this next
4
year.
more years, 14 friendly years. He is locked in.
So he's a Timberwolf. So he's obviously
the only way he's getting out in the next few years is because he gets traded with that friendly contract. But I don't see that happening going into the season anyway.
Yeah, so this is definitely going to be interesting to see how this plays out, how the winter goes. Hopefully it's a mild winter in Minnesota for Julius and Dante and all the new players that are there. So we'll see. But yeah, I just thought it was quite funny. I'll see if I can drop in the clips here. I don't know if I'll have copyright authority to do that, but it was just interesting to kind of see his chirping from the free throw line and afterwards. So, and obviously it was fitting for the Knicks and the Timberwolves to play like in the third or fourth preseason game to face off against each other. So that kind of worked out nicely for everybody involved.
Yeah. Not that I was too emotionally invested in it. I was a little bit more bombarded by social media of that whole event.
That's about all the game I saw was social.
Yeah, basically, right? And so, but no, I mean, I did find it interesting. I agree with you. I would take the optimistic approach on this and say that he's got a fire lit in his belly, and he's going to use this all year long to just to show guys up, all the haters out there. He's gonna put those to rest, I think. So yeah, enjoy that. But I mean, from what I was able to gather, it sounds like his beef was mostly with Tibbs, and it was in particular about his ability to finish at the rim. And he had a couple good finishes that game at the rim. And in that particular one, I think he was he was shooting an and one, and so he was looking over at Tibbs saying, I couldn't tell you the exact words, but something like.
This is what happens when you're in control now.
Yeah, exactly. There it is. Yeah,
I can remember.
Yeah, so he was essentially blaming Tibbs for the trade of himself to the Timberwolves and saying that, basically saying like you lost an asset. It sounds like. So,
just whatever it takes to fire yourself up, I'm here for it. So, get on it. Go for it. All right, that's Fast Break News.
So let's shift gears a little bit, and ahead of the season opener, let's talk about a team, and this is a team that is intriguing me as we're getting into the season, and that is the Memphis Grizzlies. They are a squad that has had a lot of recent success, regular season and some degree playoffs, with their last season being skewed by some Ja Morant off-court nonsense, followed by a season-ending injury, which essentially gave them this gap year, and that allowed them to sort of just take it easy, tank for the season, get themselves a lottery pick, and with the number 8 pick, they got themselves Mr. Zach Edey. So coming into this season, they're essentially going to be healthy. They have their starting lineup back, and we can run run through that real quick for those who are listening at home. But we already mentioned Zach Edey at the top, Jaren Jackson Jr., Triple J at the 4 spot, and then you're going to have Desmond Bain, Marcus Smart, and then obviously Ja Morant. So with that, I got to say, I feel like because of this gap year, what they got was really, really lucky with Zach Edey. He, we've mentioned this before. Fourth-year players tend to not be the greatest NBA players. I mean, there's a reason that they weren't top prospects in the draft, in lottery picks after a season or two in college. A lot of people question, how well he's going to do in the pace and space era, just because he's 7'4", and he moves pretty darn well for his size, but a little bit more like a traditional big. But to that I say, if you think about who he's replacing, and you got to go back a couple seasons, it's Steven Adams, who functioned very, very well on that team. Do I think he's going to be as much of a bruiser as Steven Adams? No, maybe not as keen of an offensive rebounder, but I think he's going to be, and has already shown flashes of being a great pick and roll partner with Ja. Even if he doesn't have extraordinary athleticism, just his stature alone, he's going to be a lob catcher. And one thing that they have in this guy, which I'm learning more and more as this offseason comes down to winds down to an end here, is that he is a spectacular post player and has this baby hook that is almost automatic and essentially unguardable because of his size. So how's he going to fare in the pace and space era? Well, he may, even if he peaks at being like an 18 and 12 guy, that's better than what they had. And, being a guy who is, already in his 20s, who we don't expect his body to change too much at this point, he may be able to jump into his prime pretty quickly. He's kind of like there's not going to be too much of like an early cultivating period for him as a player. He's going to be, I think, refined at a fairly early on, if not this season, the next season. And I talked about it before with the Grizzlies, that we're like forgetting that this was like a top 3 team, and when everyone was healthy and they're gelling, I mean, they looked like a team that was a finals contender. Granted, the West has transformed a little bit, become deeper, and even a little bit heavier at the top. So I'm not penciling them in as an automatic just yet, but I think they're heavy competition for one of those sought after top 4 spots. I guess some of the critiques I would make is, where's the shooting going to come from? What's their depth going to look like? Because you start looking down the line, and we're all excited to see Brandon Clark again. That's going to be huge for them. But who truly is going to be their backup center? It's kind of tough to pick just looking at their starting lineup, one of these names off the page. I am excited to see Scottie Pippen Jr. in the backup point guard role. That guy is absolutely electric and fun to watch. But he and Ja have virtually the same body type. So it's like another small, slight guard who's like a score first guard coming off the bench for you. We'll see, though. We'll see. I'm overall really excited about this team. I think they, even just via the draft, were able to upgrade, and they really have invested in their squad moving forward. So one thing that's really going to come down to, if they're not the spaciest offenses, is can they then control games with their defense? They they have 2 former Defensive Player of the Year winners who can still be considered in their prime. Marcus Smart being older, Triple J obviously being right in his prime, early in his prime. So, yeah, certainly a team that I felt the need to mention. I've mentioned them before in our over-unders. I took the over on them just like everybody else, but was definitely high on them. And I stand by it heading into their opener on Wednesday against the Jazz on the road.
Yeah, I wish I could remember if I picked the over-under. More than likely, I picked the under just because I felt like I was rolling that most of the way. But it's funny now that we've gone through the summer, I recognize a lot more of these names than I thought I was going to when you said, let's look at the Grizzlies. And I'm like, and it's a lot of the names that you haven't even mentioned. I think I just find it funny. It's to me, one of the names that pops off, like you said, looking for shooting, like for me, and granted, he's obviously a little past his prime, but Luke Kennard is always ready to take a shot. He's one of those he's ready to he gives you quality veteran depth in the guard position, and he's a streaky 3-point shooter. I think he's not so much, I wouldn't say super consistent, but he can get on hot streaks. And it's funny, you mentioned who their backup center was going to be. But to me, it's funny. I was sitting here looking, and all of a sudden one of the names popped off the list from the Olympics. Santi, I'm sure I'm going to slaughter his name just like I did all summer with all the international names. Santi Aldama. I feel like Aldama, I heard his Aldama. I feel like I heard his name a lot taking outside shots, and I wasn't usually upset with it. So I feel like and he had a pretty decent tournament. And so I think that's another one of those role players that I think can kind of step up that we weren't really thinking of before. Getting some good international experience over the summer is going to help, I think, anybody that was in the Olympic tournament, much less somebody who got quality minutes. And I got to say my favorite name that's on this list that you completely overlooked, especially for us short guys, is Yuki Kawamura getting onto that 2-way contract and making it. So he is the shortest NBA player is on your Memphis Grizzlies team. But yeah, he had a great preseason showing in an off season and made the team. So yeah, Yuki Kawamura, look for him in your fantasy basketball leagues. Put him in there. Who were you thinking of?
Oh, I figured if you were going to mention him, who, by the way, Kawamura, if you haven't seen it already, he has this one just absolutely ridiculous passing highlight where he's sort of making a Chris Paul perpendicular cut towards the free throw line, and then just slick bounce pass, Wayne Gretzky style to somebody who's not even there. Zips right past the defender and for an easy layup. Doesn't even make any sense.
He's got a few of those. It's not just one. I think that's kind of what made the team was his ability, his creation, just his ability to be creative and find people in the corner. There's a highlight reel I saw him where it wasn't just one pass. There was quite a few pretty ridiculous passes when it's those, don't make that pass. Like, oh my gosh, that was a great pass. Like you worry about why he's doing it, but then it's all of a sudden it's going in the basket. And you're like, oh, okay, he just found a completely wide open player on the other side of the court. So, no, he's super fun, at least in the 45 seconds of highlights that I've seen. And for preseason basketball, that's awesome. So, yeah, no, I think he is one of those that should be fun in garbage time. But I think this team is going to be built on grit. I think that was one of the things you would ask me was how is this team going to play and how are you going to scheme with this team with when your star is kind of your point guard. It almost goes back and I kind of see this team as your Chicago Bulls with Derrick Rose, like with Ja Morant kind of fitting that role and kind of finding the veterans around him and finding those pieces. To me, and it's funny of the similarities. You would almost see Joakim Noah in a Zach Edey, kind of a lumbering, kind of awkward guy in the middle who gets creative shots up and in, and you're just kind of like, how did he do that? And I think being from Purdue and just kind of having, and now being in this Memphis grindhouse, I hope that he kind of has more of a defensive grit to him and kind of focuses on that, and that is his base as he kind of moves forward. Because if you got Marcus Smart on this team, and Jaren Jackson Jr., and you hope that Ja can kind of, depending on what his energy level and kind of how he comes out this year, I would love to see him being a little bit more on the defensive side. Desmond Bane being a great defensive stopper. This team is like meant to, it's one of those, and you wouldn't want to do it for the whole game, but I think it gives you a lot more options defensively with the way that the NBA has kind of loosened some of their zone restrictions that they had in the past. I think this is where you kind of open up and not play college ball, but you surprise traps. You can kind of have some awkward zones, maybe some triangle twos. You can do some different stuff when you have some of these good defensive stoppers and you have a giant in the back end as a rim protector. It gives you a lot of different options of things you can do. So yeah, to me, in my head, I see this as like those Bulls teams where we were watching those 94, 88 kind of grind out games that I think Memphis made famous within the grindhouse. And a Tony Allen, I think he should be there. Get him on the staff and kind of teach those defensive stuff. So yeah, to me,
Memphis where in the world is Tony Allen?
Yeah, it's a fun team. And I think, like you said, there's a lot of names that can kind of pop up and do something within them. And so that's kind of what makes them intriguing. I don't know how well they're going to do in the West. To me, I think there's a lot of mystery teams, and they kind of fall in that could all of a sudden pop off. They can, as much as I'm going to drop in other sports in this one, like the 5-1 Vikings in the NFL, like no one saw that coming. Same with kind of the Commanders. So I think they could be one of those teams with a rookie standout and have some veteran play and kind of win some games close, kind of get some defensive stops at the end of the games. So I feel like there's a chance for them to hit that over, whatever it was, just because I think they have the potential to be a good team. I think like 2-3 years ago, they were the 1, 2, or 3 seed in the playoffs. So like the potential's there with this team. It's just, how are you going to put it all together? Like you said, come back from kind of an awkward, controversial year last year for Ja, and like kind of like a prove it, get back to being that all-star, all-pro type of player, or first team all-pro. Yeah, to me, that's where he should be.
Yeah,
you're frozen.
Yeah, and real quick, frozen. Not again. Tell me when I come back.
Or you fell asleep.
Tell me when I come back.
You're back.
All right, I'm back. Yeah, I mean, real quick, one person I didn't mention was Gigi Jackson, who is still somehow 19 heading into his second season.
That guy's 19?
Just big, yeah, just giant wing player who I feel like is,
he looks like
he's gonna.
He looks 37 in his picture on their team page.
Wow. I mean, he's certainly got grown man size and strength. So it'll be interesting to see how they make him work in the lineup. But no, I mean, no arguments here with Zach Edey being a rim protector and being able to function with this defense, which is, what I'm curious how it's going to look, because what you're forgetting to mention is the guy who led the league in blocks for them, and when he won the Defensive Player of the Year award with Triple J. So they're going to be able to utilize Jaren Jackson Jr. out on the wing and as a floater to help also. I mean, nobody is scoring in the paint against these guys when those two are on the floor. I do think teams are going to try to draw Edey out of the paint. He looked all right in some one-on-one matchups in the preseason play, for his size especially. But yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see how Memphis keeps him down low, keeps him in that drop coverage, and whilst their amazing perimeter defenders do all the dirty work. So it'll be interesting. They could be absolutely dominant, and they could be a wrench in the whole, going into the season Western Conference predictions, just because we haven't seen them really at full mast for a little bit, and they could certainly middle out, but they could also be like a 55 win team and just ruin it for somebody else.
No, agreed. I was going to say there was a comment you made, and I've already forgotten what it was. Apologies. Yeah, no, I think this team is. It was so important. And you got me, and now I got to scratch my nose.
And I'm sure it blew your mind too.
Oh yeah. But yeah, no, I think maybe not while I'm spinning. Yeah, this team's going to be interesting. Who do they kick off with?
They're at Utah.
They're at Utah at the Jazz on what is that? Wednesday night?
Yeah. That's night number 2. So not that I'm like super psyched about. Not that I'm super jazzed. Oh man, seriously.
I don't know if it's me or you. It seems like it's you, but last time it was me, so it's always weird.
I don't know. I can't seem to get a good connection these days. Am I back?
You're back, yes.
Yeah, and not that I'm super jazzed about that opener in Salt Lake City, but if nothing else, just to see how Memphis comes out. It'll just be the first game, and it's probably going to be against a team who's only going to be semi-competitive this year. But that said, Tuesday we'll be rolling out the season openers. There will be 2 games on TNT, a back-to-back, and we'll get there. Oh, we'll get there. But the first game that you clearly want to talk about would be the Knicks at Celtics. Who? Who? Yeah. Which I think is, which obviously is 2 teams that I've been talking about, who I think are going to be competing for the 1-2 spots in the East this year for a number of reasons. So super pumped about that game. And that'll be followed by the Timberwolves at Lakers for the night game out west. And of course, heading into that game, we are all excited to see what Dalton Connect does next.
Yeah.
That's the real reason for tuning in. Hey, I am doubling down on my Rookie of the Year prediction on him being up at the top. The argument still stands for Zach Edey, just because he's going to get big minutes probably on a good team, and he's going to slide hopefully into that role very well. But the sleeper is Dalton Connect. I could see him stealing those votes, even if he starts out as like a 6-man type role, 6-7-man type role. The dude has nothing but confidence. He's got a slick release, a very high release, and he shows no fear when the game is on the line. So I think, honestly, my prediction for this year for Dalton Connect is if he ends up getting Rookie of the Year votes, it's going to be because he steals one of the starting roles for the Lakers this year.
From Ronnie?
Precisely. Yeah. Precisely. I mean, I feel like the only 2 guaranteed starting spots in the Lakers right now is obvious: Anthony Davis and LeBron James. I mean, Rui Hachimura, and then Austin Reeves, who I would think that's I kind of think is Connect at this point already as like a better Austin Reeves, to be honest. And then
you just never liked him.
Yeah, well, it was because and we saw it play out last year. It was because a lot of his game was predicated on these like Harden like technicality of a foul type nonsense. I mean, he's a savvy player. He's also a great shooter. But yeah, he just like scoring like 15, 16 points a game and coming up with these big shots. But a lot of his crunch time moments were these ticky-tack fouls that just looked extremely unnatural. And then, so what do you know? The NBA cracks down on that the following year, and he doesn't look as good. Everybody was talking about how he's the best contract in the league heading into the season. It's like, well, maybe the Lakers evaluated him much better than the rest of us, knowing what was on the horizon in terms of how the rules were going to change, how refs were going to how refs were going to interpret foul calls. So I mean, we're still waiting for him to make that next leap. It may happen. I'm not saying it won't happen. No, not trying to throw too much shade on Austin Reeves here. I still think he's a good player. But yeah, I mean, I could see the guy who is even a better scorer and like he's not taller, I don't think, but he's like a much bigger NBA ready build at this point. So I can very much see that happening.
That's all right. The Lakers are going to lose anyways to the Timberwolves, so
most likely. Yeah, no, it's
he'll get plenty of time at the end. He'll get garbage time. He'll get his minutes in.
So yeah, it's very interesting that the biggest trade at the end of the summer ends up being two teams that are featured on opening night. I don't know if that's on accident or what. The schedule obviously came out a little bit ago, so it's kind of cool how that ended up faring out. But it's going to be, I mean, these are going to be the Lakers are kind of just thrown in there because it's the Lakers, but other than that aside, it's going to be a lot of really competitive basketball on opening night. Excited to see how these new squads pan out.
T4 Medical, Physician Services Reimagined. Our experienced medical professionals put your residents' needs first. We are proud to provide a high-quality level of holistic customer service, medical experience, and commitment to health and wellness to all of our patients. By providing on-site care as well as utilizing an on-call service, our team of providers can deliver proactive, evidence-based care 24 hours a day. Our goal is to treat your residents' physical and mental well-being with the highest level of professionalism as quickly as possible, all while reducing your rehospitalizations. Head to t4medical.org for more information. That's t4medical.org.
All right, this is trivia brought to you by T4 Medical, serving all your skilled nursing facility in Western North Carolina needs. This time around, Ronnie says that he has talked to some robots about trivia questions, and he says he's come up with an infinite amount of them to stump me with. I'm really bad at being pimped, so I'm sure you're going to stump me even if I know the answer. I think I'm just going to be stumped. That's my way of getting out of jail free ahead of time. Just I know the answer, but I just didn't know it at the time.
Sure. We'll have a quick trigger on these. I got a bunch. Like you said, I got some help from AI. These have not been fact checked. They're just very interesting. I asked it to give me some very interesting and intriguing NBA stats. And so this is what it shot out at me.
Jeez. I am not prepared for this at all, by the way. Zero preparation. Blindsided.
So in 2017, there was a triple-double with no points. Who recorded it?
Russell Westbrook.
Mm-hmm. Do you know the stats that he got? Not the specific number, but
okay.
Yes, it is Russell Westbrook. Correct. Ding. Let me put in a bell for you. Do you happen to know which stat categories he got?
If I had to guess, I would say assists, rebounds, and turnovers.
That is correct. 13 rebounds, 10 assists, and 10 turnovers.
Do you know how many points he scored that game, or you don't have that listed?
0 points.
0 points?
Yeah, he recorded no points.
Oh, okay. I thought it was just under 10 points. It's hard for me to imagine him scoring. I don't know. I feel like I would remember that
triple-double
part,
with no points. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
This is I guess it's a two-parter. If you can name the player and or the amount, name the most consecutive games with a steal.
Wow. The most consecutive games with a steal?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's impressive, to say the least.
All right. Well, in that case, that helps me out a little bit, because I was going to say like 56, but it sounds like it's going to be way more than that. Yeah. 211?
No, not that many. Over a full season is pretty impressive.
Yeah. How about 110?
I'll give you that one. 105.
Okay.
So
Okay.
105 consecutive games with a steal.
But so I assume that you have like the player and the time frame.
Yes.
Can you give me? Because I don't know. I mean, I could take some guesses, like Gary Payton, John Stockton.
I'll say the closest player in recent years is Drew Holiday. Nowhere near it, but he was the closest. So it's a Hall of Famer.
How many? Do you have that number? How many Drew Holiday?
I don't. It did not give me that number.
Okay. So you said it's a recent player though?
No, it's a Hall of Famer.
Oh, Hall of Famer. Sorry.
7 seconds.
Jason Kidd.
No. I guess I should have said farther back. I'll give you one more guess.
Oh, okay. Farther back. But they had to be recording steals, so it was recent enough for that. Oh, can I look up
time?
Some of the old Celtics Lakers.
No, you can't
rosters?
look up anything. Time. Alvin Robertson.
There it is. That's a good one.
Yeah. I don't like that one. And I will save that one. That's a good question later. Sorry, this is terrible dead time. Ooh, this is a good one.
He says good.
Yeah.
Good at embarrassing.
Name the player. I'm going to give you the stat. You have to name the player. The most minutes played in a single game, 69 minutes, was played by who? Like, no one's gotten close to 60 in recent years. And that's like through.
I'm going to say Wilt Chamberlain.
No, that's a solid name. It's it's in that time frame.
Jerry West.
No. I'll give you one more guess.
All right. I'll just guess.
I'll give you this. Okay, I was gonna give you a hint. I think you've mentioned him before in a trivia when you asked me.
Oh wow. My memory, you're giving me too much credit for my memory.
No, you giving up?
Go ahead.
Nate Thurman.
Oh yeah. Okay. Nice. I did not know that Nate Thurman played. You said 69 minutes?
69 minutes in a game.
Wow.
But it says, but in recent years, there have been instances of players logging over 60 minutes in overtime games, which can be a rare occurrence. So, how many more do you want? I've got another 10. So
give me one more.
One more?
Yeah, one more.
Let me get you a good one.
Which means the listeners will miss my epic dance moves.
I'll leave those in. All right, so my last trivia question. Nice dance moves, by the way. I'll try to make sure I keep those in. The most, since we're both shorter guys, the most rebounds in a game by a player under 6 feet.
I don't suppose that you have the player listed as well.
I do have the player. Would you like the player? I don't know if that's going to help you. I can tell you the amount of rebounds.
The most rebounds. So that's a fun two-parter. The most rebounds and who's the player? Under 6 feet. I think what's going to catch me up is players who are listed at like 5'11", as opposed to like a definitive sub 6 feet.
I guess it's how many. There haven't been too many of them, and which ones have logged the most times? Like, which ones do you know off the top of your head because you remember seeing them play so much?
I mean, I almost want to guess Muggsy Bogues just because how heavy of a base he has. Feels like even with such a short stature, he'd be such a good rebounder.
So you picked the shortest one.
Yep. Definitely under 6 feet. I know that.
5'3". Like, yes, he's the one that got the most rebounds. Wrong.
All right. Well, I can't imagine it was Earl Boykins. Maybe it was Nate Robinson. We got a winner. So,
Yeah.
so it was Nate Robinson, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna guess 12 rebounds.
There you go. Ding, ding, ding.
Did I get them both right in one
Yeah.
at the end there? Nah, wow.
In 2011, Nate Robinson grabbed 12 rebounds in a game against the Pacers. A remarkable achievement for a player standing at 5'9".
Was he playing for the Bulls at that time? I feel like he may be playing for the Bulls.
You couldn't. I don't know. You're the one that's supposed to know that.
Fair enough. Okay.
All right, that's your T4 trivia.